Hey, we like to think we've chosen who we are, that we crafted our mindset by will. But the truth, a lot of what shaped the way we think happened long before we realized we were even being shaped. In this episode, I want to get real about the invisible influences, culture, upbringing, environment, and experiences that quietly form the stories we tell ourselves. Not to blame anyone, but to get clear. Because once you can see what shaped your lens, you can decide what still belongs and what you're ready to let go of. Welcome back to the Shattered Mindset Podcast, wisdom from life's turning points and defining moments. So here's where I want to start. Most conversations about mindset jump straight to changing it. Change your habits, fix your thinking, rewire your brain. You've heard the drill. But what if, before we talk about change, we need to talk about origin? Because long before we were setting goals or diving into personal growth books or even pressing play on episodes like this one, something else was already shaping the way we saw the world. Not loudly, not all at once, but gradually, quietly, almost invisibly. Things like the culture we grew up in, the behaviors that got praised or criticized, the feelings that got ignored, the stories that were repeated around dinner tables or never spoken at all. These things didn't ask for our permission, but they left fingerprints on the way we think, choose, and show up. What does mindset actually mean and what doesn't it? Let's strip away the fluff for a second. When I say mindset, I'm not talking about motivational quotes or tricking yourself into being positive. I'm talking about the lens, the deeply wired filter you use to make sense of life. It's how you explain success, how you justify failure, how you react under pressure, how you decide what's possible for you. Some of those beliefs, you choose them consciously, but a lot you didn't. You absorbed them. And this isn't about self criticism, it's about self curiosity. It's about asking without judgment, where did this come from? Who handed me this idea? And does it still benefit or serve me? You know, the first voice in your head is culture. Let's talk about culture for a second. The silent teacher. It's the one that most of us never question. Culture teaches us early what success is supposed to look like, who gets to lead and who stays quiet, what kind of dreams are realistic, and what kind of emotions are really acceptable. The tricky part, culture doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm shaping your reality. It just feels like truth. Like my mom saying, what did I say? You know, you didn't wake up and decide how to think about money, gender, roles, ambition, failure. Those ideas were passed down, modeled, rewarded, or punished until they felt normal or uncomfortable. Some of it empowered you, some of it caged you. And until you name it, it just keeps humming in the background, running slowly, running the show. Then there's environment, the air you didn't know you were really even breathing. And that takes us even more personal. Your home growing up, your neighborhood, your schools, your early workplaces. You know, in my 20s, on my job, I wanted to be a supervisor. But my manager gave me an assessment on my performance review, and she said something that just really it just stuck with me. And for years and years and years, it stuck with me. I denied it. I didn't believe what she said about me. On the surface, I didn't. I didn't want to believe that, but it affected me in a lot of ways. Environments train you. They train you to speak up or to shrink, to dream big or not at all, to bounce back or to just brace yourself for the next hit. Because your negative thinking tells you it's coming, that hit. You didn't just grow up, you adapted. And sometimes that adaptation looks like strength until it starts limiting what you believe is possible. And not about it's not about asking, was my environment good or bad? It's asking, what did it teach me to believe about me? Let's look at education and exposure. They're really the silent gatekeepers of possibility. When we talk about education, we tend to think of classrooms and textbooks, but real education is what you were exposed to or shielded from, the ideas and beliefs that were allowed in or denied, the people who challenged you or didn't. It's the conversations you overheard growing up, the books you found lying around, and then the person who finally said, you're more capable than you think. Look, for me, that person was a gentleman by the name of Jim Perking, Jim Perkins at FedEx. Now, look, I was a young guy, maybe 19 or so, 19 or 20. I don't even know if I was 20 yet. But, you know, somehow we connected. He was the senior vice president. Well, he grew to be the senior vice president of personnel. At the time I met him, he was a personnel manager, and because that was early on in the FedEx years. But he taught me how to think. He introduced me to personal development. He taught me how to set goals and to think big. And it's just huge to know that I had an influence that early in my life that affected me for many years to come. Later in life, exposure becomes a choice. What you read, who you follow, what you allow to stretch you. I'm glad that Jim Perkins introduced me to Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I'd never read anything like that before. It changed the trajectory of my life. But even then, here's the catch: new ideas don't just expand you, sometimes they threaten the identity that you've built all along. That's why growth can feel uncomfortable. It's not just about gaining insight, it's about letting go of who you thought you had to be. I wanted to be a businessman. Well, my dad, even though he was an entrepreneur, he wanted me to get a good union job. I think he just wanted to protect me. Hmm. But what about when life interrupts the script? Some mindset shifts aren't a choice. Life steps in. A job falls through, a relationship ends, a health scare hits, a season shows up where it used to be things that worked, they suddenly don't. Those moments, they strip away the stuff. They expose the parts of your mindset you didn't even know you were clinging to. And they often whisper a brutal but important question: is this way of thinking still serving the person I'm becoming? Of course, when you're coming up, you probably might articulate it a bit different, not so eloquently. But look, let's consider something else important here. How about influence versus ownership? Being shaped by your past doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're human. But staying unaware, that keeps you reactive, unintentional, on autopilot. That's when you're not living your life. Instead, your life is leading you. The goal isn't to erase your story, it's to take back authorship of what comes next. You write the story, all right? See, to say it with clarity, yeah, this shaped me, but it doesn't get to define me forever. This belief helped me survive, but I don't need it to grow. This lens got me here, but it won't get me there. Let's look at some practical ways to start rewriting the script. How do you actually begin shifting a mindset? Here's where I'd invite you to start. Track your emotional reactions. They're oftentimes connected to our older beliefs and philosophies. Look for some patterns. What keeps repeating in your life? That thing you keep living over and over, or you keep going back to it. That loop just might be a clue. Some question your certainties. All right, your certainties, especially the ones that sound like that's just how I am. Is that really a certainty you want to be your reality? That's like saying, I can't control change in myself. If I can't control change in myself, I can't control change in my circumstances. Next, you want to outgrow what no longer fits. Some ideas once protected you. That doesn't mean that they should lead you now. Maybe that shell that protects you also imprisons you. Nothing can get in or out of a closed fist or a closed mind. And remember this, growth doesn't usually start with motivation, it starts with awareness. So here's what I'll leave with you. You're not broken because of how you think, you've been shaped. And what's been shaped can be reshaped. Once you see it clearly, you can choose differently. Sometime this week, just pause. Ask yourself, what beliefs am I carrying that I never consciously chose? That single question, it might open a door you didn't know was locked. So listen, until the next time, keep adapting, keep growing, keep questioning, most of all, and becoming more of who you actually want to be. I'll see you the next time on the Shattered Mindset Podcast. Take care, take charge. God bless.